It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Anthony, today we are fueled up. We are ready to go. I've had not just one, but two bacon, egg, and cheese bagels in the last hour and a half. And I feel good. I feel like I'm ready to do a radio show.
You had two in that bag?
Yeah. It was a buy one, get one free.
Oh, wow. That's smart.
What was I going to do? Be like, nah, only bring one, especially with as hungry as I was. Nah.
Well, you've had a bagel. I've had a 5-hour energy. So I'm all pumped up.
Buddy, we are in trouble. Anthony is just all hyped up on caffeine.
No, I'm joking. I don't think I've ever consumed a 5-hour
I was gonna say you don't do caffeine.
Nope.
What would happen if you did have a 5-hour energy
gosh.
drink or a Red Bull
I'll
or a
probably be
Celsius?
The most annoying, obnoxious person ever.
You know how the junkies do their drinking show?
Yep.
What if we did a caffeine show for you?
Oh my goodness. To be honest, I think I might crash also, like really bad.
I think it could get dangerous. I mean, we couldn't do it the same way where you just keep adding. Like that would be really bad if we just kept it going, and all of a sudden by the end of the show you've got like 400 milligrams of caffeine in your system, and that would be, forget the crash, like the burn would be terrible. Like you would be like, Craig, I think I'm having a heart attack.
Yeah, I wouldn't know what to do either. I think I would start panicking.
Probably.
Yeah.
You would definitely get very panicky.
Yeah.
That would be big time bad. But like a cup of coffee could be fun. We could start there.
Coffee is nasty.
Maybe
I've only tried coffee once.
Did you
and I
have
think it was
sweeteners and like milk and did you have or did you just have black coffee?
I don't know. I was 10 years old, but I think it was a black coffee because that's how disgusting it was.
Yeah. Also, you were 10.
Yeah.
Coffee is kind of an acquired taste thing.
Yeah. I don't think I want to even go back down that rabbit hole.
Honestly, if
coffee.
you've gotten this far in your life without caffeine, you should probably just keep going.
Yep.
I'm definitely someone who, like, if I don't have my coffee in the morning now, I'm a little more reliant on it than I want to be. Maybe I should cycle off it for a week.
Ooh. And then you'll be like me and just never go back to coffee again.
But I'm not. The thing is, I enjoy coffee. Like, I enjoy having a cup of coffee in the morning. But I'm not like I need 6 cups and one always in my hand to function type of person.
Yeah. I'm
just.
I know a few of those people.
Yeah. It's bad. Anyway, we should get going with the show because it's a major news day. Jacoby Brissett has been named the starter for the Commanders for Week 17. You heard that live this morning on Kevin Sheehan's show here on the Team 980 when Rivera made that announcement. And I would say there's 3 main points I would like to make, and we'll see how it goes. Whether I get to all 3 of them this segment or whether or not we carry it over. But we definitely were going to, normally we do Vibe Check Tuesday. We're kind of going to do Vibe Check Wednesday here. So we'll take your calls on all the quarterback stuff at 301-230-0980 here in just a few minutes. But the first major point I would like to make is that this was an organizational failure. And what I mean by this is an organizational failure is this team failed to set up for a successful season any number of ways from day one. Now, with that said, I will take an even larger step back. This is not one of the 3 points, and say this is the absolute best thing to happen to this organization in terms of the complete and total failure. If you're going to fail, make it so there's no doubt. Make it so that there are 0 questions. Make it so that your owner has an easy decision to move on from everyone. No tough ones, no consternation, no nothing. This is the cleanest of clean breaks that is coming after this season, and good because there's no reason to keep anybody. All due respect. I think, there's some coaches on this staff that are good coaches. Randy Jordan's been a good running backs coach here for a long time, and he's been through multiple administrations. He's worked for multiple OCs. He's been adaptable, and his running backs, by and large, have done a good job. I mean, he's had so many different guys, none of whom are uber talents, have productive seasons. I mean, again, Fat Rob for a while was like, is this dude really good? And then, when Adrian Peterson was here, obviously the best back they've had recently, even though AP was advanced in his career, like AP was a 1,000-yard rusher. Antonio Gibson, 1,000-yard rusher. B-Rob has been really good when he's been healthy. So Randy Jordan's done a good job, for instance. But, like, you don't need to keep him. Just move on from basically everybody. Now, I do think that there's a couple of people, and we'll get to this in the offseason. I don't need to get too distracted now. Potentially, there are some coaches who have relationships with a Frank Smith, with a Ben Johnson, similar trees, similar backgrounds, have crossed paths before. There are some coaches that may be back, and that's fine. But the biggest players, your coordinators, one of whom is already gone, your head coach, your general manager, all those folks, see ya. Have a good time in your next gig. We wish you the best. There's no reason to keep you. And that clarity is good. But in the vacuum of the context of this season, they have failed from go. Part of this was organizational by Dan Snyder, right? The money was tight. The staffing wasn't ideal. And, obviously, who knows? Like, Ron was able to fire Scott Turner, but, like, could Ron have been gone after last season? I think most of us have said under different circumstances, we wouldn't even be talking about this because Ron Rivera wouldn't have been the coach. But because of the ownership situation, obviously we didn't want Dan to fire Ron because that means Dan gets to hire another coach. So this was the lesser of two evils, even as evil, so to speak, within a football context, this has turned out to be. So it started all the way back then. It trickles down to Rivera, doing whatever he did with the staff, not firing guys, and maybe there were some restrictions on him, maybe there weren't. But bad decisions certainly within the season. A defense could have helped Sam out, and they are playing better now. Clearly, Ron had other ideas. It's not like he just ran Jack stuff. So why didn't, after the Chicago game, for instance, why didn't Ron fire Jack then? Why didn't Ron be more forceful and say, we're doing this way. You're going to implement my stuff. I'm the head coach. Your stuff stinks. It's not working. So there's an organizational failure on that level. And then from a roster building standpoint, did they have ultimate flexibility in free agency? No. Budgetarily, that just wasn't in the cards this offseason. Fine. But they had to do some stuff. And they chose to not prioritize the offensive line. And they chose in the draft to pick defensive backs in their first two picks instead of creating a better situation for Sam Howell. I don't think choosing Sam Howell was an inevitable way to fail. I think Sam proved that there was something there. And whether it still is or whether it's been beaten out of him, like, we're going to see over the long term, and I'll get to that in a second. But on an organizational standpoint, they went into this season with a roster not built to support this young quarterback, and then an approach from Eric Bieniemy that is an all-time bad idea. You went into a season with a quarterback who's had a sack problem, who doesn't see over the middle of the field well, who lists all of Sam's flaws here, and you asked him to throw the ball, drop back, more than any other quarterback in the league. And as a head coach, Ron Rivera never stepped in with enough force to go, and maybe he did step in at times, but not with enough force to ever get it fixed. He never was like, hey, dude, you're going to kill our guy. Because even if the sack rate is bad earlier in the season, you don't take 9 sacks if you're not dropping back damn near 50 times. It's impossible. The opportunities are not there. And maybe the worst thing to happen was they had some success with it early. And they were like, oh, we're on to something. It's like, no, you're not. You're getting lucky. You played the Broncos at the point where they were the worst defense the NFL's ever seen. You put up 35 the week before Miami put up 70. You played the Cardinals in their first game under a new head coach. Fool's gold. And you were the fool. It's a total organizational failure to support Sam Howell. And so, yes, has Sam regressed? Is a lot of this on Sam and his performance and his lack of growth? Yes. But plants only grow if you water them and give them sunlight. And they basically stuck Sam Howell in the dark and hoped for the best. Which is why I'm not sure this is the end for Sam Howell. That's the second point I want to make, and then there's, well, a third too. I already told you that. We'll get to points 2 and 3 I want to make about this decision, and then we'll take your calls next. 301-230-0980. It's the Hoffman Show on a Wednesday here on the Team 980. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We are streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980 as well. So check the chat. Make sure we got the right audio and everything today after yesterday's adventure. Anthony, you just gave me the thumbs up. We're all good. You've checked the chat. Anybody interesting say anything in the chat yet?
I didn't check the chat. I just listened to the YouTube stream.
Okay, that's good. That's fair enough. If you leave a comment in the chat, I'll definitely check them out in the next commercial break. And we will read many of your comments on the stream / ones you've left on our on-demand videos coming up at 5:30 because it is a Wednesday, even though it feels like a Tuesday. And that's when we do never read the comments. All right, back to the points, if you will. 3 main points I want to make about this Sam Howell decision / announcement today from Ron Rivera that Jacoby Brissett will be the starter for Week 17. The first is that it's an organizational failure. Covered that in the last segment. If you're just tuning in, luckily for you, there's the rewind feature on the free Odyssey app, and the podcast will be on demand, so you can go back and listen to that very soon. However, the second point I'd like to make is this. Sam's career is not over. And I think this is the one that most people are going to disagree with. And I get it, because right now it feels as over could be. Like, he just got benched. That's them saying he's not the guy. Sure. Here's a couple things I would tell you. One, them saying anything means bubka, squadoosh, nada, zilch, zippy. 0. Why? Because them's not going to be here. And I could 100% see Ben Johnson, Frank Smith, Bobby Slowick, one of these offensive coaches who have played with quarterbacks on the up, not the elites, not the Patrick Mahomes of the world, watching the game tape, seeing Sam Howell do the high-level stuff that he did earlier in the year, watching him deteriorate, watching the game plan, watching how often he was dropped back, watching some of the offensive line play, watching some of the mental mistakes the offensive line has made, watching how undetailed some of the stuff that has happened here is, and simply going, this is ridiculous. I cannot believe they tried to play offense this way. This kid has something, and I know how to get it out of him. Because if I'm Ben Johnson, and that's what I've done with Jared Goff, now Goff was more successful in LA than Sam has been here, but and Jared was a number 1 pick. Let's not forget that. Let's not be disrespectful and say they're the same guy. Or if I'm Canellis down in Tampa, and maybe the best comparison to anyone for Sam is Baker Mayfield. And I'm Dave Canellis down as the offensive coordinator in Tampa, and I'm like, I know what to do with this kid. That's what I just did with Baker. Sick. Now, Baker, also number 1 overall pick, but from a size standpoint, etc., you're talking about much more similar players. Mobility, all that kind of stuff. I think Sam's a better runner than Baker, but Baker can move around a little bit. Point is, if you get someone who believes in scheming things up for a quarterback and they come in and they're like, look, I don't really like Daniels. I don't like J.J. McCarthy. I don't like Penix. I don't like Nix. I don't like any of these quarterbacks any more than I like what Howell's already done. I've had a conversation with the kid. He's not cooked. He's fine. He just needed to take a deep breath and a step back. I know how to actually insulate him. I know how to incubate him. And by the way, I'm going to get way better talent around him because I'm going to take Marvin Harrison Jr. and get him the big X receiver that he needs. Or I'm going to take Olu Fashanu and I'm going to give him a stud left tackle, and we're going to spend 50 of our $80 million that we have in free agency on offensive linemen, and our offensive line is going to be sick next year. Yeah, I could see that Sam could be the guy here. But also, Sam might be on a Baker Mayfield journey. He might get benched. He might be the backup here for a couple of years. He might eventually wind up getting traded somewhere else or signing somewhere else in free agency 3 years down the line and being a decent player and working his way back into the league. Here's the thing about a young quarterback getting benched. There is tremendous precedent for guys bouncing in and out of a lineup and ultimately not becoming Patrick Mahomes. Like, Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. That was preordained. Peyton Manning's Peyton Manning. But outside of the select few, the Andrew Lucks, etc., some guys take time. And Rodgers sat for a bunch of years. Brady sat for a couple of years. Kirk Cousins is the best example here. Kirk got benched multiple times in 2013, 2014. He is, at the time that he got hurt this year, was playing as a top 10 quarterback and has been a borderline top 10 quarterback the last couple of years. And other guys, even if it's because of injury, have been in and out of the lineup. Like, Tua's been in and out of the lineup. Injury-related, but he's been in and out of the lineup, and he's been better every time he's gotten back. Sometimes playing a little bit, taking a step back, getting to watch some tape, getting to watch someone else do it, especially a veteran. I mean, Tua got to watch Ryan Fitzpatrick. Actually, no, I apologize. That was the timelines are off there. But obviously, we've seen different quarterbacks get to watch other guys play, and it can be beneficial. Rodgers watching Favre back in the day. Now, Rodgers, insanely talented, way underdrafted, etc. But like Mahomes watching Alex Smith. You watch a guy operate the system and okay, I see how it's done now. I'm going to go do it. I see the timing. I see the rhythm. I see what he's looking for, and I see that it works. So is this good for Sam Howell? No. This is not his ideal. I shouldn't even say, is it good? No. Is it ideal? No. Because ideal would be Sam was playing awesome and he continued to grow, and we're never having this discussion because he just got better and better as the year went. But that's not how it went. He's in a spiral right now. We've all had moments in our life where we need to get pulled out of a spiral, professionally, personally, whatever it may be. Take a deep breath and be like, okay, you know what? I'm okay. I'm ready. And then you probably need to take an extra deep breath until you're actually ready. Don't rush back into it. And maybe Sam plays against Dallas. Maybe he doesn't. But he's not cooked forever because of this. He might be, but it's not a one-to-one straight line comparison here. This doesn't mean that he will never play in the NFL again. And I'm not going to say that I would bet on him being successful because I've obviously seen how the last few weeks have gone, and I think that there are some concerning flaws in his game. I'm not trying to absolve him from all fault here or say that if the approach was different, if the organizational failure didn't fail, then like they just ruined a star, right? But we definitely didn't maximize his chances of success here. Or we definitely didn't see, I'm not going to say we didn't because I didn't have anything to do with it. We didn't see his chances of success maximized here. And within there is still a football player that's done a lot of high-level stuff at a very young age, is still very young and has a long career in front of him and seems to have a great head on his shoulders. So it doesn't mean that he's done. It doesn't mean that he's done here. And that leads to point number 3, which is the future calculation still hasn't changed. We are still at a place where you have to look at quarterback, which is where they've been all along. What's changed is the numbers in the equation. So I guess in that way, the calculation has changed. The equation hasn't changed. If you don't like any of the quarterbacks when you're on the board and you love a non-quarterback, you should take the non-quarterback. And that's the most unpopular opinion in town right now. And I don't really care. I don't do this for popular opinions. I do this because I want to try to say smart stuff. And I think that's my job, is to try to give you my honest opinion based off of years of reporting and talking to smart people and watching the league and understanding how it works. There are multiple ways to do this. And I think that's maybe the more important point, right? A couple of years ago, Detroit had some just choices to make in terms of who they took. They took Penei Sewell. It has totally worked out for them. They traded for Goff. That's how they got their quarterback. They took Sewell at right tackle, and he has turned into one of the best offensive linemen in the league for a team that runs the ball a lot, has great protection. They use him out in space. They've actually got like a really good systematic way of maximizing a top 10 picked talent in Penei Sewell, even though he's a right tackle. They drafted these running backs like Jahmyr Gibbs. They signed guys like David Montgomery, and they get them out in space behind Penei Sewell. They're like, we have a star, even though he's a tackle. How do we use him in the way that at times Trent Williams was used here and how Trent is used out in San Francisco by Kyle? So if you think Olu Fashanu is that damn good and you don't like the quarterback that is available to you, then you should take the left tackle, or you should, yes, Cincinnati also had Joe Burrow, but a huge game changer for them was Jamar Chase. Taking the wide receiver worked out. It can be that way. And then because you have the Bears pick at the top of the second round, you could probably very easily trade into the back end of the first, or you can probably very easily get up to the top of the second if you're not going to be sitting there pretty naturally, and maybe Penix or Nix falls to you. And you get your quarterback that way in the second round, and you have a Hall of Fame level player that you took at the top of the first. So you don't have to just take the next best quarterback on the board at 3 or 4 or 5, whatever they wind up, 2 even. If you don't, and it's up to the next group to evaluate what they think Howell is, what they think the other quarterbacks are, and what they think the non-quarterbacks are. And that hasn't changed. I think this conversation, I know that's not exactly the sexiest take, and I think obviously over the next couple of months, we will all form our opinions on all of those players. We'll go back and we'll watch more of Howell with the different lens, like more of a critical eye, not an optimistic one, projecting towards the future. We will watch more with like where are the red flags that we may have missed. And do we think that those red flags are things that now with the benefit of hindsight are perma red flags that will never change? We will watch and learn more in the scouting process, the interviews, the behind the scenes, the medicals, all that kind of stuff about some of these college prospects. And maybe for a roster that's so depleted of talent, it seems, trading back will be the right move. If they can trade back, a team like New England winds up dropping, winning another game and they drop to 6, like, do they get desperate? And you're like, you want to know what? We'll take your second round or 2. We'll have 4 top 40 picks, 5 top 40 picks, whatever it winds up being. Let's see, you have 3 seconds and 2 firsts. Yeah, you do something like that. And maybe even a future first because you think New England's going to stink next year. Maybe you wind up Houston Texaning it. Or I guess Chicago bearing it. And that could be your plan too. So the good news is because they have, there's a ton of options here. A ton of options. And obviously it's going to depend on what happens. If Chicago sticks with Fields and Arizona sticks with Murray and neither of them somehow trade their picks, like could Caleb Williams fall to you? Maybe. Or if you only have to move up 1 spot versus 2, for Williams, like that could be amazing. So there's plenty of potential opportunities here. And I think that's the exciting thing. They've got the resources to make stuff happen. But making this move now was about now. It was about making sure that Sam Howell didn't continue to spiral to a place that it was irredeemable. And hopefully he's not already there. Maybe he is. Maybe we're already too far down the rabbit hole. But this was, it's Ron Rivera playing arsonist fireman. He's cleaning up his own mess. And so he doesn't really get credit in that way for it. However, this was the only logical move today based off of all the things that I've talked about. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. When we get back, we will take your calls, 301-230-0980. A vibe check on a Wednesday. How do you feel about the quarterback decision? Talking to you next on the Team 980. show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Hope you're having a great Wednesday. Michael Phillips will join us at the top of the hour. Right now, though, in lieu of some calls, because apparently everyone's driving around with not an interesting calling in today, it's okay. We had a backup plan, and I think you're going to quite enjoy it. Logan and I had a really good conversation about Sam Howell this morning on Take Command. At the time, we didn't know that he was about to, within like 5 minutes of, or an hour, I should say, of our recording finishing, Ron was going to make the announcement. Originally, Rivera's press conference was scheduled for 2 o'clock this afternoon. Became 10:45. He made the announcement, probably because they wanted to do it before the media saw Jacoby taking the 1 reps at practice. But we talked about what went wrong for Sam versus the Jets and why we would both move with Brissett. Or move forward with Brissett. So here's that conversation from Take Command, just part of it, actually. The full one, of course, available on demand anytime in the free Odyssey app and wherever else you get your podcast. But here we go. Take Command on a Wednesday. Which brings us to the quarterback play. And maybe I think this is going to be an interesting discussion that will surprise people, maybe in a good way. Maybe people will be like, no, I think what I think, and that's typically how it goes. But when you go back and you watch the quarterback play and you look at Sam Howell's day, a day that he goes 6 of 22 for 56 yards, throws 2 interceptions, neither of which I think are his fault. You'll be able to chime in on that in a moment, and has the worst QBR I've literally ever seen. I've never seen a 1.7 QBR on ESPN's quarterback metric. But that's all based off the stats. When you actually watch, like, what went wrong for him? How did this happen?
Yeah, I mean, and again, I'm not trying to like make an excuse. I'm just like making an observation when you watch the film. On the first 5 plays, someone's either dropping a pass or falling down in a route, and he can't throw the football because the guy that he's trying to throw the football to, and I've seen guys make these throws and they lead to picks and interceptions. So like he's got Logan Thomas on a choice and he slips. And the guy's breaking on the football. And it's like the whole reason that route works is because my big body's in the way of this defender coming through and you've slipped. So now I got to bring the ball down, got to reset my feet. And I don't think he's at a place in his career, where he can just kind of, I'm going to hit the comeback. He's not there yet. And he looks a little bit flummoxed, but I don't think it's all on him. Now, does he need to make plays on some of these opportunities? Yeah, but some of them are like quick game and guys fall down. Like right. There's a third down? 3rd and 7. And Logan Thomas is running a dig, like he's running a basic, and he falls. And that's where the ball should go. And because it's such a long developing route, it's like I can't reset. I can't get to my new thing. So I scramble and I end up taking a big hit. So I just think like to start the game out, I felt for him a little bit watching it because I'm like, okay, you get a dink off Logan Thomas's helmet for an interception. And while that would be a tough catch, that's definitely a catch Logan should make. Right. And then you go through and you're like, this guy fell down. This guy fell down. This guy slipped. This is a bad read. This guy on this deep comeback falls down. And so
Curtis does a drop on the play before the interception.
Yeah, on the RPO, which would have been an easy first down. Like it was a really nice read by Sam. Talk about deleveraging your quarterback by EB. It was a great play. Love that play. Drop the ball. And I think that's the thing that's really frustrating about the evaluations. You come out of it and you're like, so much bad stuff happened to him so early in this game. Like, for example, there was a play I was watching where I'm like, this is a good route. This is independent of people falling down. Jahan runs a good route, right? And it's like a comeback route. Great job by Jahan. He's working on Sauce. And it would have been a really contested throw if you throw the comeback. But I'm like, the play before, Jahan had just fallen down. So how confident is he that he can let this go into a tight window with Sauce Gardner draped over this guy's back? And I just think like that stuff has a cumulative effect on the game. And especially how it happened. I think it's probably the first 5-6 plays, someone's falling, dropping a pass, and it just shakes you. And in this type of game versus this type of defense, the windows are going to be extremely tight, and you got to make confident throws with anticipation. And there are throws later where I'm like, you got to make this throw. Like you got to anticipate this throw, step up in the pocket, and throw this football. But I look back at the first, again, 5, 6, 7 plays, and you're like, I understand why you're not, because you don't have a lot of confidence that it's going to be there. And I think that's the thing that makes this game and makes this evaluation as a data point so frustrating. It's because the offense kind of let them down a little bit. And again, there's That's not to say it's the receiver's fault or whatever. It's just guys. It's kind of like the special teams things. Like guys just didn't make plays when they had to make them, and I think it negatively affects Sam's outcome.
Yeah, it's that's terrible turf up there at MetLife. Mostly noted as terrible for injuries, but it just sucks. And like guys probably aren't confident running, cutting on it. And again, like they're professionals. They need to run the routes. They need to have the right technique in and out of breaks and be on balance so they don't fall. Like all that stuff for sure. You need to catch it. If you're Logan Thomas, you need to catch it if you're Curtis Samuel. But also like you see to solidify your point, I'd like to present Exhibit A, if you will. The second interception, the last pass he winds up throwing is like, he might have been told like, hey man, you got to just trust it. You got to throw it. He throws it. It's a great call by EB. He's got Curtis lined up in the backfield. He gets Curtis one-on-one on a choice route on a linebacker. And Sam puts the ball right where it's supposed to be. And Curtis slips and falls, and thus the ball goes to the linebacker. But you have to throw that with the anticipation as he's coming out of the break. You don't know that he's about to slip. You throw with the right anticipation. All of a sudden, the receiver doesn't go where he's supposed to be because he falls, and the ball goes to the other team. Like, it just sucks as a quarterback. There's nothing you can do there. His process is correct. His result is bad. And I feel for him because early in this game, he was so let down that I think you're 100% correct. Like, and you could kind of see it happening even watching it on TV and watching it live on TV. Nevertheless, when I rewatched the condensed game before watching the all 22, is like you just see it happening, and you're just like, this is a kid that's shot. And you think of all of the stuff that he's gone through this year, all the sacks he's taken, all the interceptions he's thrown, all this stuff. And eventually, like even the most resilient of people, and Sam Howell has shown an incredible resilience this year. It's something we've commented on and really like about the kid. But even the most resilient of people eventually hit a breaking point. And it just feels like he is at that breaking point, and or at the very least, like he's walking on thin ice going into every game. And the last couple of games early, he's been the victim of bad circumstance, bad luck, and thus the ice breaks.
Yeah, and I think, I think that's a great point about him kind of like low-key being cooked a little bit. It's a tough thing to watch because you see, I went back and watched some of his games from earlier this year, and again, there's some more space, there's more opportunity, but he's making elite throws. He's throwing into tight windows. He's anticipating throws, and it's not like he's anticipating, the way a high-level veteran quarterback anticipates, but like he says, I know this is going to be there based on coverage. I'm going to fire this sucker in there. And to see that, it's like it's not even the same guy to a certain extent, So there's been a pretty big regression. And I mentioned this to you, like I was prepping for San Francisco and got to watch a lot of Brock Purdy stuff. And I think Brock Purdy gets this rap of kind of being a game manager. But when you watch it, you're like, when he's got to make throws, he is dicing the defense, and it's in this kind of vein of like that what elite quarterbacks do. He doesn't have to do it very often because they're so efficient running the football. And maybe that's a conversation that we can have later, about like EB protecting him, whatever identity of this team. But, there's a dig, I forget who they're playing, and it's Tampa 2, and he throws the ball, in Tampa 2, that Mike's running right down the middle of the field. Yeah. And there's an in cut, and he throws it right to the back of the guy's head. And the receiver comes across and just grabs the ball right before the Mike can turn all the way around. And I thought, that doesn't even look open to me. Like that doesn't even look NFL open, but great job. And he does that so consistently, and he trusts his playmakers, and guys go up and they're winning 50-50 balls, and they found a way to get McCaffrey on a linebacker. And it's still like tight window, high level anticipation throws. And when Sam's been in there, the past 4 weeks, that's just not a thing. Like the throws aren't there. And again, they played better defenses. Things are tighter. I think the last time we saw even a shade of that was versus Dallas in the first half. And it's been rough since then. And I think the other thing that shows up and kind of surprises me a little bit when I watch the Purdy film is the way that he works the middle of the field. And Sam has gotten away from that almost completely. So those are two things that I think are very large red flags regarding Sam's play. But in the context of this game, I think he never was able to kind of find his confidence, find his rhythm. And I think back to stuff Kyle used to do, Sean used to do when they were working with quarterbacks is let's get him a couple easy throws early, right? Help his confidence grow. And that's a thing. And so in this game, you get 2 drops and one leads to an interception. And so how confident is that football player going into the rest of that game? And I would say not very.
So that was something that I wanted to ask you about, because the play calling, I think, when I went back and watched it, I'm ready to be mad, and it's like, they dropped him back a ton, and it's like, no, there's quick game here. They threw a couple as they got into like the third and fourth drives of the game. I mean, the third drive of the game, where he had the dropsies and people falling down every play basically up until that point. They start off with a screen and they get Curtis a big gain, first down, and you're like, this is sick. Good job, EB. And they start the next drive, I believe, with a screen to Terry. And so they do, screen it a little bit. They get the running game going, obviously, in this game a little bit. Chris Rodriguez was fantastic. I do wish they'd run it more, obviously. That's a topic we've long covered. But, like, they did run it. And it felt like as they got deeper into drives, then they would revert to more drop back. It was like, all right, drive starter, bang. All right, let's keep it going on the ground, bang. Even I think it's the third drive of the game. They ran it twice in a row, and I was like, "Oh, looky there, looky there."
I think it's the fourth drive of the game.
Or was it the fourth drive?
Screen and then 2 runs, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. That drive, whatever number that was. Math has never been my strong suit. I mean, point is,
third, fourth. The third was a 3 and out, so I understand why they're
okay. Yeah, maybe it was drive 4, drive 5. That was the screen to Curtis, and then drive 5 was the screen to Terry.
Right.
By the way, how often do you have like 5, 6 drives in the first quarter?
Yeah, I mean,
crazy.
Bad.
But anyway, I felt like as they got deeper into drives, there was as they started to like get a little bit going offensively. Obviously, they never really got much going with Sam in there, but they would get deeper into these drives and then they would revert to drop back. And maybe there's a play action in there. But I'm just curious what you made of EB's attempts to get him out of that funk, and from a play calling standpoint, from a rhythm standpoint, from a hey, let's take some off your plate and run the football standpoint. What'd you make of that?
Yes, I think that fourth drive is interesting, because I think it's exactly what you're talking about. You get some positive momentum. You get that screen to Curtis, which again is well executed. Love the offensive line getting out there, like Wiley. I mean, you see the advantage of having a guy like Wiley out there who's just hyper mobile, like hyper athlete, gets out into space, does a great job. And I think, like that's why you brought this guy in, is because he's a good athlete, and he does some stuff in the run game later where I was like, man, I think that's extremely high level, So and again, he gives up the sack.
Unfortunately, I think that fourth drive also ends with him getting smoked around the edge.
He gives up a sack, and usually we're kind of like we're kind of saying like, oh, Wiley's not playing as bad as people think, and I think when you look at the course of the 61 plays of this game, he played pretty well, but that sack's on him, and I think he'll tell you that, right?
Right, and that's the thing is like, can you make key plays at key times?
Right.
But anyway. Continue.
No, and I think that's a great point on him specifically, and I think the first and 10 is a play that I like. I like the play. Like if you said, Logan, draw this play up, why are you calling it? Do you like it? It's basic.
Which brings, it was like, all right, drive starter, bang. All right, let's.
Which again is well executed. Put the ball up to Terry. So they added an element. It's not off play action anymore. They've got a third element where they're running like a big swirl route coming into the void that could potentially be vacant. So love it. I mean, it's there. It's a really nice concept. And I remember thinking like, why doesn't this work? And everything's tight. There's tight window throws across the board. And I think you're asking him in that moment to do probably more than he's ready to do. And again, that's not saying that he's physically incapable of doing it, but basically on that concept, the reason that it's great is you're saying, I'm going to read the post kind of high cross space. If that's dead, I can either check the football down to the flat, or I can work this swirl that's coming back into my vision. But you got to work through it kind of quick. And it's just not, I don't think he's there right now. Like just watching him, I don't think he's there right now. So then then it ends up being 2nd and 10. And you run a choice, which I think is a great call. Like run a choice or like a CO, I forget what it was, but like something short, something to kind of incrementally gain back that yardage that you've lost. And I remember thinking to myself, like you have Byron Pringle running the corner of a choice, right? So it's like a choice is usually like you get an outside release corner, pick this coverage player so that the choice runner can kind of give more space to work. And I'm like, I know, and in my mind, I'm like, he's going to work the choice side, Sam. So why not put Terry at the corner? Like, why not have him draw that matchup and work that corner route? So your high level throw or your 2-level throw is choice to corner, and Terry's running the corner where you get a guy who's going to, and so like there were times like that where I'm like, this is a good concept, like the call, But kind of to your point, and I think you brought it up quite a bit, is like, can we formation this where our playmakers are going to be in the progression to that side? There are reasons not to do that, but I'm also like, at this point, let's try to find ways to get that done. And so then you're in a 3rd and long situation. You run an Omaha takeoff, so an out and up. Curtis wins, like he's open. I'm not a big fan of like straight vertical routes into a defense, but they're in a tight split. They run this out and up. Curtis is wide open, and you give up a sack. So I think it's, when you look at that, you say, I like the play the first time. I like the second play. Sam, I don't think is in a good spot to read that out the way it needs to be read out. And then I think on the choice, he misses the throw, but I think someone trips or slips or something like that, and it ends up being 3rd and 10. So you had this really excellent momentum, explosive run, explosive screen, and then it just immediately dries up and dies. And that's just, that's tough. So
I was wondering what happened on that 2nd down play, because he just throws the ball like out of range for Pringle. And if someone slipped underneath on the choice, then he just kind of got rid of it to Pringle because he's double covered. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense because you got nothing. I also think that's one of the other things that is worth pointing out is the way, like, he vacated a ton of clean pockets in this game. And like the way when Jacoby comes in, Jacoby extends plays versus the way Sam extends plays. Yeah. And I think, in some ways he's a victim of his own success. Earlier in the year, he had so much success running out of the pocket and making plays off schedule.
That's something we talked about, is like, is this going to be a crutch and a bad habit? And I remember watching, I think it was the Patriots game, he's making explosive plays, and you're like, he's leaving too early. And is this something that's going to bite him in the butt down the road? And
consider him bitten.
Yes, right.
So, I don't know how much there is to add there, but like you watch, when we start talking about, which we're going to in a moment, the differences when Brissett comes in and what Jacoby does versus what Sam does. Jacoby's willingness to stay in the pocket, obviously Jacoby's veteran ability to throw with anticipation, but the way that Jacoby moves within the pocket and the way that he has a sense of it, because there are times where, like, one of the plays that we already talked about was when, I think it was the 2nd drive of the game, when he rolls out and he gets absolutely blasted. And it looks very similar to the pick to Logan. Obviously the Logan play is a designed rollout, but like that same, like he's rolling to his left hard and then takes a shot. And this is the one where the ball pops straight up in the air and luckily falls to the turf, but he gets blasted. He's not under pressure. Like, he just runs into pressure. But I think that to like make a point that we've been making all year, when we say that this offensive line is not the worst in the NFL, and we say this offensive line is playing okay, that they are an average offensive line. One, go look at the rushing stats, yards per carry. I'll say it again. They're doing well. 2, and by the way, they're doing well in spite of the fact that neither of us really like the way they scheme up their run game. They just they hit blocks with consistency, consistency, and their backs are doing a good enough job. And then 2, I think, more importantly to the pass game stuff, if you create a pocket and your quarterback's in it and he's safe and he runs out of it and runs into pressure, that's not the offensive line's fault. Yeah. And that is what happened 5, 6, 7 times in this game. Easy.
Yeah. And on that play specifically, that's the one where Logan's running the dig. They're basically set up the play so that his eyes should go to Logan. And I think he's doing the right thing. His eyes are going to Logan over the middle field, and Logan trips and he falls down. And so right when Logan falls, and this is what you can tell when a guy's not in a good spot, is right when Logan trips, the ball comes down. It's like, where do I go with the ball? And there's a comeback, there's some other opportunities, but you got to have that composure. And you saw Jacoby last week. He was expecting to work Logan over the middle of the field. It wasn't there. He had to reset and throw the kind of slot comeback to Curtis Samuel. And I just think there's an element of composure to Jacoby's game, which comes from experience, which comes from not getting hit 1,000 times or whatever it was, 55, whatever that number is. And so on this play, I think it shows kind of, to me, where his head's at, right? You get 2 drops, you get that other one where the next play, 1st and 10 on this drive, Jahan falls down. Yep. Okay. Not there for the throw. Logan falls down on the 3rd and 7. And he's not in a spot where he's confident enough to be like, okay, I know what to do. Let me just get there. Yeah. He's I don't want to say, because I think he's seeing ghosts a little bit. And I think that's part of the issue that you were talking about, or you've been talking about for the last 4 weeks, is like when you leverage this guy to the hilt all the time, like it's not going to be, he's not a veteran that can handle this responsibility, and you've leveraged him to the hilt, and he's starting to kind of wither a little bit. And how do you kind of get him back on track is the question going into the rest of the season.
Yeah, and just real quick, a note on that before we ask the question of like what to do next. This is happening to Patrick Mahomes right now too. Yeah. Like Patrick Mahomes, for the first time probably in his entire career as a starter, is so, I mean, he's leveraged, which is fine because he's Patrick Mahomes, and they are not the same. Patrick is still doing incredible stuff each and every week. But like you can see when you watch even the TV, stuff. I'm not going back and watching all 22 Chiefs tape just in case anyone is worried about my well-being. But like you see Travis Kelce open underneath, like you see some of the stuff available to him, and he's starting to just like be like, I got to make a play. I gotta get the ball downfield because I can't trust my guys to catch the ball on a consistent basis. And and also like his demeanor, like he is starting to break a little bit in a way that we've never seen Patrick Mahomes break. And I think Mahomes will be just fine. They'll probably win a couple of playoff games. Like their defense is playing outrageous, and that's why they're still competitive. But you see Mahomes dealing with this on a Mahomesian level. I can't imagine what it's like to be Sam Howell right now dealing with this at his level. And because, by the way, also you don't have, the relationship that you have with the Travis Kelce with anybody. You don't have a great defense that's playing at a top 5 level that is going to keep you in the game. Like the pressure of that is so immense, and it is certainly withering down Sam Howell, if not straight up have broken him.
after 5 o'clock on the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Just after 5 o'clock means it is time for Not My Beat.
Today's top story from the perspective of someone who's there.
You are looking live.
This just in.
Not My Beat.
Today is Wednesday, and we didn't catch up with our guest Tuesday, who normally joins us on Mondays, Michael Phillips. I have no earthly idea what day it is. None of us should ever have to work this week between Christmas and New Year's. What are we doing?
You know, that music normally gets me pumped up. Like, I'm there. Like, I'm live, man. Like, I'm going to give you the word from the scene. Today it's like, shoot, I am here. I am in Ashburn, and it's rainy, and they're 4-11, and all right, fine, I'm here. Ask me some questions.
Yeah, we're here. We're just waiting for it to end mercifully. Instead, it's been mercilessly. It's a rough go out there in Ashburnistan, which still feels very Ashburnistan-y, although I thought we were retiring that nickname on roughly July 20th. I think we'll get to retire it soon enough. Michael, you and I have not talked about or extensively about the decision that Ron Rivera made at quarterback, though reading a few of your tweets, it seems like we are very much on the same page. What do you make of the decision?
Yeah, I mean, look, you got 2 games left to play. And if you're going to show your face in the locker room and say, hey, let's go give it our all, let's go win a football game, I just don't see how you can do that in good conscience and then say, and Sam's going to be our quarterback. Remember what he did the last couple of weeks? Maybe he'll be better this time against the 49ers defense. Like, he won't be. And he needs to ride the bench. And I think Ron is saying the right things and that this isn't a long-term indictment on Sam. And I don't think it is. He'll be on an NFL roster next year. I think he'll probably be on this NFL roster next year. But look, this isn't basketball. This isn't baseball in October or September where you bring up the call-ups and, let the kids play. This is football, and this is a violent game that's played in the trenches, and you just can't field a team that's deliberately sabotaged to not win.
I think that's a great point, and it's one that fans love to poo-poo and dismiss, and because it doesn't suit their interests, right? The fans' interest is, oh, well, he gives us a better chance to win. We don't want that draft position, but this is why we do this segment, and this is why I try to bring this perspective to the show of we've been in the locker rooms. We talk to guys. We've been around this league, not just watching it from our couch. We interact with it on a much more intimate level. And if you don't think that stuff's real, I'm sorry, I have news for you. It is. As much as it might make you upset that they could drop in draft position and they are bettering their chances to win and you don't want them to win, I don't know how to explain it to people, Michael, other than these guys want to win and they want to win badly even at the end of a lost season.
Yeah, I think there's 3 takes here, right? There's Jacoby's better, put in Jacoby take. I think that speaks for itself. I think there's the people who say, I'd rather lose. And I get that. I hear you. And honestly, let me put my journalist cap aside for a second. I agree with you. Yeah,
I agree with that as well. The
you'd
sense
rather
of
lose
relief
right
I felt when the Jets made that field goal was I'm embarrassed to admit how relieved I was. But that's me, not someone who actually had to put on football pads.
Yes, exactly. And so, any tanking needs to come from the top and from the general manager and did come when they traded Chase and Montez Sweat away, although everybody was very underwhelmed with their performance at the time. That's the correct way to tank, of course. It's not the people in the building. And I do think the pro-tanking crowd kind of understands what's going on. I think they're a little tongue-in-cheek about it. The people I would like to just say no to are the people well, this is unfair to Sam Howell. Sam Howell needs these opportunities to learn and grow. How can you evaluate Sam Howell if you don't see him for a full 17-game season? Stop it. He's bad. He's been bad for 4 weeks now. He was good. He was good for a little while. I don't think he's out of the league forever by any stretch, but he's really bad right now. Just viewing this through a Sam Howell lens, come on now.
I 100% agree with you, and I'm glad that we have you on the show today so I can ask you this question, because I showed up in 2015 on the beat, and Kirk Cousins was named the starter of that training camp and never looked back. In fact, he never missed a game for the Washington football team until he left and signed with the Minnesota Vikings. He literally was the starter every single week and took almost every single snap with a couple of exceptions where like Colt got a half against Dallas at the end of one year, I think. Anyway, the point is the Kirk Cousins figured it out time is when I was here. You were here in 2013 and 2014 when obviously a lot of the focus was on Robert, but Kirk also played and then was benched due to performance. How do you think those benchings helped shape Cousins into who he ultimately became to be? And do you see the potential for the same thing to happen with Howell?
Yeah, and of course, the great what if of all time, what's memorialized is the you like that game, the game against Tampa. They fell behind 24-0, and it was very clear all week if Kirk doesn't deliver against a mediocre Bucs team, he's done, and they're going back to the bench and they're going to the next option. And Jay believed in Kirk, as Mike Shanahan did, but also understood, like, if he can't beat the Bucs, we're done here. And then it's 24-0. I mean, they come back, they win that game, and that launches the Kirk Cousins career. If they don't come back, if they don't win that game, even if they come back but don't win, even if it ends up being like a 3-point loss, he's done, and he probably never gets another chance in the NFL again. Like, it's crazy how small the margins are in the NFL, and, you know, like week to week and sample size. And, you know, this is the ultimate league where you get Major League Baseball, Craig, you just say the best players in the world play in Major League Baseball. There's 162 games. There's 3 levels of minor leagues that play 140 games a year. If you're good at baseball, you end up in the major leagues. And if you're not good at baseball, you don't end up in the major leagues because we know. We have enough sample size to know. The beauty of football is we don't know. You can't say definitively that the best players in the world are in the NFL. There's guys who come in and turn your heads all the time. There's guys who had a bad, untimely injury in college, didn't get the chances. It's part of the fun of the league, right? And so Sam Howell got a great opportunity here. He got just so many games with the full trust of management. Kirk Cousins got that luxury as well. He had 2 coaches who totally believed in him and trusted his practice habits over the years. And, you know, that ultimately turned into a very nice, very productive NFL career. Not everybody gets that. What's interesting to me is Jacoby Brissett today, his comments. Ben Standig asked him, like, hey, like, you know, were you planning on having a chance this year? You know, does it surprise you that now it's week 17? And he was very quick to respond, no, I plan to win the job in training camp, and those just weren't the cards I was dealt. Now, clearly to me, in training camp, they were both good enough that you obviously would have given the nod to Sam as the young quarterback with the higher upside. But it's interesting to me that Jacoby, that competitor in him, still is like, no, like this is mine, and I've been gunning for this for a while. And here we go, and I'm going to seize this and take advantage of it.
Michael Phillips, of course, down in Richmond, 910 The Fan, is with us and writing for the Washington Times. I do want to underscore that for a second. Is like before we circle back to the idea that something could happen with Howell, like did with Cousins, and what like you do if you're Sam. There is some revisionist history happening in that. Oh, Jacoby was the obvious guy all along. Do you agree that coming out of training camp, you also would have made the same decision they did regarding Howell?
That's correct. And we can debate how fair of a shot Jacoby was given, but Sam Howell was given a fair shot to win the job and did legitimately win the job, right? He was always option 1 and Jacoby was always option 2, but within that structure, Sam Howell fairly won the job with his performance in training camp and his performance in practices. And by the way, 6 weeks ago, I was on this radio program. I said, you can build around Sam Howell, and right now he's your QB1 for next year. And that was not, we were not misled at that time. He had made strides, right? He took all the sacks early in the season. He made strides. And then this most recent stretch, it's really caught up to him. Taking all those hits has caught up to him. Whatever they're trying to coach him in terms of not taking sacks has not been great. Just the way he dances in the pocket and gets out so quickly. You add up all those things. Sam Howell, I just completely agree with that. Sam Howell very fairly won the job out of training camp and very fairly retained the job up until this point.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and it's just he didn't continue to grow, and that's the sad part. And I also think that I started the show with this, like there's an organizational failure here of why he didn't do that. Like some of this is on Sam, but there's some of this that's very much not on Sam. How do you kind of think about the blame pie of why things did not go in the direction that we thought they would coming out of training camp?
It's just a part of what's frustrating about this season is, and you mentioned it with the Ashburnistan comments, right? Like this is a new era and we're very excited to turn the page and have competent management and leadership and et cetera. But also you're still dealing with the failures of the past, one of which is the offensive line stunk last year. And they didn't do anything about it this offseason. And we all saw it coming from a mile away. And this isn't second guessing. You can play the clips of all of us yelling, why are they not doing anything about the offensive line? On draft day, on free agency day, on training camp days, leading into the season, on cut day. We all knew this would be a problem, and it was a problem. So that's part of the frustrating part here. And my column for the Washington Times today is, look, I mean, this underscores, going to Jacoby now, underscores just how bare the cupboard is that Ron Rivera is leaving. You could make the argument that Jay Gruden left it better than he found it, that Mike Shanahan left it better than he found it. Ron hasn't left it better than he's found it by any stretch at all here. So, yeah, it's a team game, and Sam Howell is at the mercy of his teammates, and certainly that was never more evident than the start of the Jets game where he hit two receivers, it hits their hands and then turns into interceptions, and all of a sudden they're off to the races. This is a full-on roster rebuild that's coming here, and, obviously that's more than just Sam Howell's fault.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think the thing that's interesting, Michael, like offshoot of that is there are circumstantial things where I have some level of empathy for Ron Rivera and the whole situation here. One, I think it's important to point out, though, that I don't know that he's here this year if the ownership situation isn't what it is last offseason. I think in a lot of places, under a lot of owners, and maybe even the guy that was here at the time, if he wasn't in the middle of selling the team, that Rivera would have been fired after last season. But he's not, and obviously they were hamstrung in terms of hiring staff and the payments and are paying players, and in terms of a budget for free agents, all that stuff. But I think when you talk about the draft specifically, that is like the most mind-bending, incredible failure of this organization. You have the picks. Like there's no negotiating with your owner. We need more picks. We need this. No, you get picks. You send a card in. That card sends someone to the podium. They announce it, and that's the player that you get. And they chose two defensive backs when they didn't really need defensive backs, or certainly the ones that they picked in terms of positionally. And by the way, their defensive backs coach was a guy who's never going to be a defensive backs coach in the NFL again. So that's a flaw in the plan. And then with their third and fourth round picks, they take linemen who barely or don't even play this year. And by the way, one of them in Braden Daniels, everybody knew that going in. And that was their fourth rounder in their must-have-it year where they're trying to rebuild an O-line or build an O-line that can support Sam Howell as a basically rookie quarterback. Like, are there things that are beyond their control? Yes. But I think what drives me bonkers about this administration over the 4 years is the things they could control, they failed so badly that I just kind of lose the empathy for the stuff that was beyond their control.
Yeah, and I just completely agree with all of that the drafting was bad, and the drafting was bad in the moment. Like, this isn't hindsight, and this isn't, they were smarter than the board, and they were smarter than the needs, and it's caught up to them, and this is where it is, and this is where they've left it, and there's going to be some rebuilding as a result of that, but we all knew it in the moment as well. I guess if there's a winner here, I'm kind of happy for Jacoby because, he gets a chance to really, I think with a strong performance here down the stretch, I think he could get consideration as a starter in the NFL next year.
No, I don't disagree with that. I think he could definitely show something. I'm happy for like Jahan Dotson, who like magically reappears when Jacoby enters the game. That's a cool trick. I do think the
same way that Terry did that when Heineke came in for Wentz.
Yeah, no, it's like, oh yeah, this guy's amazing if you get him the football. But like, I also get it to an extent with Sam last week. Like, there was Logan highlighted this on Take Command today. Like, there were back-to-back plays where Sam goes to throw to Jahan, and Jahan slips, and Sam's got to eat it. And there was like the first like 6 plays of the game are all drops or guys slipping. It's terrible. Like, for a guy that was confidence, shaky, thin ice. Like he was in the frozen pond by 7 plays into the game. through stuff that wasn't his fault, and that obviously once you're in the pond, like you're gonna have stuff that's your fault. But you see Jacoby come in, Jahan looks great, Terry looks great, and you're like, right, these guys are good. Maybe this isn't a full-scale, everything sucks rebuild, which brings me to the defensive side of the ball, Michael. Yes, I'm going to ask you about the defense. Has Ron done any reflecting publicly, or have you heard anything behind the scenes of him wishing that he had been more assertive with things earlier in the season? Because while they are not playing amazing football on the defensive side, they are so much better now than they were earlier in the season. And again, the lowest of bars. But it is very clear that he had ideas that were different than what they were doing when they were terrible, and he was the head coach the whole time. Has he shown any regret about that?
I don't think he ever will. I think he's just one of the most loyal dudes you'll ever meet. And like, not to, pile on or anything, but I do think he was prepared to go let the ship go down with Jack in charge if it hadn't been, for that stretch of really embarrassing games. Like that was the model he set out to create. Was he was the CEO and overseeing it, and he was going to hire these coordinators and let them do their thing and run their schemes and not meddle. And I don't think he views that, or at least will never view that publicly as a regret that I think he would have stuck with Jack through the end of the season if his hand hadn't been forced by a really embarrassing back-to-back series of games where, they got it handed to him, and not only got it handed to him, got embarrassed on national TV. In that Thanksgiving game against the Cowboys, Tommy DeVito putting up his numbers on them. I think he would have gone down with the ship. I know that's crazy to say, but I just don't think that's how Ron's wired, and maybe that's the military side of him, right, or whatever it is. I don't get the sense he felt like inserting himself was the right or proper thing to do.
Have you talked to any defensive players and like what their thoughts on the matter and the changes and how they view Ron and all that kind of stuff since?
It's so hard because, I was just talking to John Allen and Kendall Fuller and those guys today, right? Like, they're saying that they like it better and et cetera, but you also sense in that locker room the sense of like it was over before this started. So there was never like a wholehearted like buy-in, like we're going to do this and we're going to make the playoffs and we're going to salvage things. Like, that was never in play really. It was just like, okay, a new guy's in charge and he'll run out the clock now. And can my agent get me out of here, or do I want to stay because there's a new coach? Like, I just don't get the sense. And that was the timing of the move too, right? That the great what if is, what if he had moved on from Jack year 2 when there were warning signs there, year 3 when there were more warning signs there, right?
The Bears game this year.
The Bears game this year. What if he had taken over then? It could have been a different story where these guys really rallied behind the new defense and the new coaching and, had a chance to achieve something. But once your goals are off the table, it becomes a lot harder to really buy in and get excited about these kinds of things.
If you want more from Michael on all of this, you can read him in the Washington Times. Of course, listen on the free Odyssey app to his show on 910 The Fan, 10 a.m. to noon each and every weekday. Michael, last thing before you leave, how was Peter Chang's last night?
Oh, man. So I love Peter Chang's. That's one of my all-time favorites. Got the dry fried eggplant, great appetizer.
So good.
With the Szechuan peppercorns, got a hot numbing pot. I just set my mouth on fire, was completely delighted while doing it. I will tell your listeners, though, please continue listening to the Hoffman Show. I'm not back on the air until next week. I'm taking the week because, like you said, nobody should have to work this week. So I'm only half working this week. That's my concession to myself. Merry Christmas,
Anthony. Yet here we are working. I really think an Odyssey between Richmond and maybe AWOD's working this week. I don't know, but between Richmond and then our 2 stations here, I literally don't know anyone else that's working all 4 days this week outside of me and Anthony.
We dodged a huge bullet because we were at one point to be at Tech's bowl game, and I don't know how much you're following that. It's in Annapolis today, and
it's not good.
It looks miserable. Like they're winning. Winning's fun, but that does not look like a fun day.
No, it's cold and the weather sucks and it's not good. Also, speaking of Peter Chang's real quick, Michael, can you believe that it has been less than 1 year since Anthony Haney had his first ever dumpling in his life?
How about that? All right. I would guess there's some Odyssey employees, Grant Paulson, that have never had a dumpling in their life. I would guess that's a thing.
I know GP's very picky on food, but like meat wrapped in a delicious noodle seems like something that's right up his alley.
They have the soup dumplings too, where they wrap up the soup and it like explodes in your mouth. I love that.
Yeah, no, we had some of those on Christmas up at Mama Chang's. But we literally got some. I think we went the Chang Chang route here. And you're welcome, Lydia, my friend who's the restaurateur at all of these restaurants, for all of the shout outs. But I think we discovered that Anthony had never had a dumpling, and we then had him try them on the air. And the results were good. He's a fan.
I'm excited for Anthony. I'm just like, let's not dwell on the past. Like, let's dwell on the present. Like, I'm excited for him that he's experiencing that because it's great.
Yeah. Is there another food that you've been wanting to try? I feel like we're due for a good Anthony food bit.
That's a great question. Not off the top of my head. I got to think on it.
Okay. Michael, if we have another good quality Anthony food bit and you're up in the area, would you like to come in and participate?
I mean, that's an easy yes for me. Definitely love it. Definitely love a good food bit.
You love any good bit, let's be honest. All right. That is Michael Phillips with us, Vice President of Bits in the media room, host of MP on the mic, and of course, he is a beat writer as well, covering Commanders for the Washington Times. Michael, thank you, sir. Have a happy new year, and we will talk to you hopefully next Tuesday.
We'll sort that out, but
okay.
I think that's very possible, and I will enjoy the conversation.
As always. Thank you, sir. Goodbye. That is Michael Phillips with us here on The Hoffman Show. When we get back, it is time to dive in to the deepest, darkest part of the internet. Yes, it is time for Never Read the Comments. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. So basically all week, Anthony, I felt like I was a day behind. Yesterday we did something that was so reminiscent of a Monday show that I woke up this morning feeling like it was Tuesday. Really, truly, honestly.
Yep.
And we did, well, we were supposed to do a vibe check earlier. Apparently people don't call on Wednesdays like they do on Tuesdays. Damn. Gotta stick to the schedule. And we've had some other stuff that has been very Tuesday-y. And I would like to feel normal. I would like to recalibrate. I would like to feel like it's a Wednesday. And it's 5:30 on Wednesday. And that means it's time for Never Read the Comments.
It is time, but never read the comments.
Does that mean that you need a little more time for it to be time for Never Read the Comments?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Who were you screaming at on FaceTime?
I was
it
screaming at
Zaire?
Zaire because he was trying me. So for Christmas, I was in charge of making the candy yams, and he also made candy yams. And he thought that I was taking a shot at his candy yam making, and I really wasn't. I just wanted to know what he put in his candy yams, but
Instead, you were screaming at each other on FaceTime.
Yes.
Instead of getting the open ready.
And it is now ready.
Okay. It's time for Never Read the Comments.
We tried to warn them. They didn't listen.
Yeah!
Every week, the Hoffman Show goes into the belly of the beast.
We read those comments, baby.
Never read the comments.
All right, if you're new to the show, this is how it works. We stream live on YouTube each and every day, all 3 hours, or as many hours as we have, on the Team 980's YouTube page. We take the best of our show, we chop it up, we put it on demand for you to consume at Craig Hoffman and at the Team 980 on YouTube. You leave comments, we read them, we pick the best ones, and then we respond to them live on the radio, 5:30 on Wednesdays. Anthony, we start with Never Read the Comments today, obviously with quarterback discussion, because, well, that's what most of the conversation today is going to be, and we've had enough of it even in the last couple of days to accumulate some comments on it. There's so many different angles to attack here. Let's start off with Sean Walker 7238, who captures perfectly an essence from some part of the fan base. There's nothing frustrating. The kid sucks. It's simple. Howell has never been that dude from UNC to now. He came from Mickey Mouse offense in college, and now he's Mickey Mouse. Tired of guys making excuses for this kid. You guys never made this many excuses for anyone else. Anthony, I'm going to be honest. I don't even know what most of that means. And not in like I understand what you're saying, Mickey Mouse offense, man, he's Mickey Mouse. Like, that's a cute little saying. Like, you don't think that his college offense was that impressive. It didn't prepare him for the pros, and there's probably some truth to that, but that doesn't make him that difference from a lot of other people. And by the way, Drake May is about to probably be the number 2 overall pick from the same program, although they have changed offensive coordinators, in fairness to the record and being factual. But the idea that like Sam is just sucked all along and this was preordained and he was always going to be terrible is stupid and incorrect, and obviously stupid and incorrect because he had a bunch of good games this year and he had a bunch of really good stretches of games. And if he had had any support from the defense in, the first half of the season, they're probably 500 going into the back half of the season. They played some tougher defenses. Obviously, there's the accumulation of hits. There's all kinds of stuff that has happened to create this reality. But this is the argument that I hate the most. That like it was just preordained. There's nothing that could have happened. We'll never it doesn't matter. There's nothing to know. That this was just Howell sucks. Nobody thought that until 3 weeks ago. Maybe. Most people didn't have that remotely enter their mind as a possibility until 2 weeks ago. And it's just until this week that it's become of an opinion that people love to say with force. So I just think it's such a clown comment and like such a clown position to go after a 23-year-old kid who put it all on the line this year and got basically no help from his entire support system, to the point that everyone's like, oh, the best thing that's happened to him this year is his backup was really nice to him. Which, like, credit to Jacoby. Jacoby's an awesome mentor, and Ron talked about that today, and that's great. And I think we all saw it with what Jacoby said to Sam and then relayed to us via the media on Sunday about how he's excited for Sam because most people don't get to go through this and he thinks he's going to come out the other side and be fine. That's great, but like, I wish that we could talk more about how the coordinator helped him and talk more about how he got the support from the franchise. Like, Anthony, I'm going to be honest. This comment couldn't be me.
Yeah, I don't really like it either. And I don't necessarily think that it's excuses we're making. These are things that we thought about, prior to the start of the season. So the fact that we didn't feel as though we addressed the offensive line issues per se. There's so many things. EB is a play caller,
Right. Or, receivers not playing well. I mean, the thing that I think people are responding to, because this was, one comment I picked out of many that I could have along the same lines on today's episode of Take Command. And Logan merely said and pointed out that there's, on the first, I think, 7 plays, either a receiver has a drop or slips. Like, Sam is, let me see where the ball's supposed to go here. Right as he's about to let it go, receiver falls down. That's not an excuse. Like, that's what happened.
Yep. Fact.
He's doing the right thing. And then, yes, because of that, he lost confidence. And that's not an excuse. Like, that's just an explanation of what happened. If you want to call it an excuse, fine. But, at the end of the day, the result is, he lost confidence and played really poorly. And later in the game, there's a lot more issues. But, it's not Sam's fault the receivers fell down. It's not Sam's fault he hit Curtis Samuel in the hand on first down and then Logan Thomas in the hands and face mask on second down and threw a pick. It's not Sam Howell's fault that the last pass that he threw, it throws with anticipation. He picks the right matchup. Curtis Samuel falls down, and this time he doesn't eat the ball like he did earlier in the game. He just lets it go. He trusts it, and Curtis falls again, and he throws it right to Quincy Williams. That's not Sam's fault. It's bad luck. You're allowed to admit that there's luck involved in sports. I think everyone just wants to put everything always on one person, and it's not how it works, especially in a game where there's 22 guys on the field, 7 more refs, and it's played outdoors in December. We're allowed to be intelligent here, and yet I've read that comment anyway. Maybe I'm an enabler, Anthony. To the coaching point, then there's comments like this. Mad Dog 9867. Ultimately, this is a coaching issue that has been all along. Sam is really just a rookie, and the kind of play calling throughout the year put him in harm's way. He definitely is shell-shocked. Sit him for the rest of the year. Let him learn. Let his mind and body heal up. As for the draft, definitely draft offensive lineman, quarterback, linebacker, more offensive lineman, and then intelligently use your cap space to fill the gaps. And we also talked about Benjamin St. Juste on this pod. He said, and as for BSJ, he can get better with better coaching, just like Forbes, and I look forward to cleaning out the stench of little Danny. I would just say a couple of things to this. I'm much more in line with this line of thinking in terms of, the biggest factor in Sam's failure, I think, is coaching. I think is, a lack of attention to detail in certain parts of the offense, play calling, sequencing, the run-pass balance, the leveraging of Sam Howell. I think all of that is the biggest factor. I think probably second to that is, and really 1A and 1B with that, is roster construction. Again, this offensive line is not the worst offensive line in the league, but it is somewhere between 15 and 20 probably, and that's not good enough for a quarterback like Sam Howell. You need to do what Philly did and be like, hey, if we're going to have Jalen Hurts, we need a sick offensive line because he has a propensity to hold the football. That's what you needed. And you're going to lean on your run game and you're going to do all this stuff. So I think that all goes together. And then obviously too is Sam's own ability or inability to grow and learn and make some of the adjustments that he needed to throughout the year. In terms of the picks, I haven't gotten into any real draft prep yet. Just some preliminary reading and keeping an eye on the mocks and talking to Matt Miller on our show and talking to some other folks off air. But remember, you spend your free agency money first, which is kind of annoying. Kind of good, depending on where your draft pick is, if you have a pretty good idea of what you're going to get in the draft. But you got to make $80 million worth of investments before you draft anybody. And so you can't rely on free agency to fill in the gaps because free agency, the main wave of it is over 2 months before the draft. So just, little off-season reminder there. All right, Anthony, this one, are you on the rundown?
I am. Are you talking about the long paragraph?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How is that typed, Anthony?
In all caps.
Sure is.
So he's yelling.
It sure is. It's David Clark, 2513, whose profile picture looks like a white-collar lawyer. Should I go full, actor on this? Or should I just read it calmly?
I think you should add in the emphasis on the capitalized words.
Well, they're all capitalized, Anthony. There will be no emphasis. There will just be gusto. Forget the quarterback situation. The head coach should have been sacked straight after the game. He's a loser. Coaching a team who was 4-10, his backup quarterback brought Washington back from the dead. Our opponent couldn't stop him. We go back in front with less than 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and he has the ball and the outcome in our own hands. So what does this lousy head coach do? He runs the click down and punts to a team that our defense, spelled the Canadian way, hadn't stopped for most of the game. Most if the game. And who have a kicker who can kick a field goal from well over 50 yards like a chip shot, yet this clown of a head coach doesn't put the game in the hands of his on-fire quarterback. No, he runs the clock down and punts, handing the game to our opponent. His 4 seasons at the Commanders have been a circus. We have now a worse team than when he first arrived. Oh my God, I needed some oxygen. He literally had 3 commas in there and no periods.
I'm not going to lie. You did a great job because I felt it. I felt that passion. Felt it. I understand where he's coming from as well, though.
I do, but David, I can't read your comment next time. I'm exhausted. Ugh. Woo.
You actually look like you're sweating over there, too.
I am a little bit. That was a lot of... That was my second threshold workout of the day.
Yeah.
Really tested the oxygen limits there. I'm kind of stalling right now just because I need to kind of get it back. Woo! Yeah, Ron Rivera's not good at his job. Okay, let's go to the next one. James Taylor, 6051 says, give me a legitimate reason to start Sam Howell these last 2 games when everybody can clearly see he's struggling. Anthony, I actually love this comment because it flips the narrative on its head, right? Everyone has said, give me a reason to start Jacoby. We know what he is. We got to find out more about Sam. How about you give me a reason to start Sam? You want to find out what he is? You got the last 4 games that suggest to you he's a quarterback who's in a tremendously bad way right now. And it's not like he started just those 4 games. He's started 15 games this year. You have a sample size. You don't need 7. There's no magic number about 17. You have the 1 start last year. You have 15 this year. You have 16 games of tape to go off of. We used to call that a full season. So for a guy that's in this bad of a way, in this bad of a funk, I love this comment because I would love someone to give me a reason beyond we need to see more to start Sam Howell, and I'd bet nobody can. Not a good one anyway.
Yeah, I'm sitting over here trying to think of one. Can't think of one.
There isn't one outside of I want to see more, and it's for what?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what you're going to see. You're going to see him struggle again.
Mm-hmm.
There's a chance if you bench him and let him reset, blow on the cartridge, old N64 style. Let's reset that thing. Let it sit there for a few minutes. Start him against Dallas. I'm on board with starting him again against Dallas. And if Jacoby goes out and kills it, it's going to be a hard sell in the locker room. I mean, at that point, what does Ron care? It's his final game. But, there's just no... You can't go... there's a couple reasons why I can give you to start Brissett. Starting with Sam Howell's safety. Starting with it's actually the best thing for Sam Howell. But also, as much as fans don't want to hear the draft pick, this is great, we're tanking, give me the highest draft pick, that argument. That's not how it works in the actual NFL real world. You do things like tank via front office moves. You trade guys. If you're Josh Harris or he would do it via Eugene Shen or whoever. You go and you say, hey, we're going to shut John Allen or Terry McLaurin down. But for the guys that actually take the field, you owe it to them to give them the best chance to win. Because these are professionals. and it is a violent game. There's injury risk. Like you play. Cue Herm Edwards. You play to win the game. That was a terrible Herm Edwards, but you get the point. And so Jacoby gives you easily. You can't sell at this point that Sam gives you the best chance to win, and you could sell that basically the entire year until this point. That it was at least close enough, and now you can't. So, yeah, give me a reason why you'd start Sam Howell. I'm sure the comments will get filled with many of them, and we'll maybe read them next week. Felix the Fearless, 1886, which, Anthony, I got to admit, considering the comment I'm about to read, that is a hysterically funny screen name. Felix the Fearless, 1886. First two words of the comment, I'm worried.
Nah, that is funny.
Felix the Fearless is worried that this mirage of success with Brissett is convincing people that EB's offense is good. It's not. And that the O-line is good. It's not. And I'm worried that these false feelings will stop us from addressing the offensive line needs in the draft. This is one of the most inaccurate comments I have ever read on this very silly website during this very silly segment that we do. Thing one, EB's offense is good. It is a terrible offense for this team, for the quarterback that was at the helm in Sam Howell. But this is a West Coast offense that has helped, and like it's a version of an offense that has won 2 of the last 4 Super Bowls with Eric coordinating it. Obviously with a huge hand from Andy Reid and a very different quarterback operating it, a.k.a. Patty Mahomes, a.k.a. the best quarterback that I've ever seen actually perform the position, and someone who has a chance, if he continues to compile the resume track that he's on, to be right there with Brady as the greatest of all time by the time that his career is said and done. Like, let's be very clear. This offense can and does work on paper. It's just getting the right guy to execute it, the right guys to execute it, and they don't have that here. Offensive line. Maybe the reason that Jacoby is making the offensive line, quote-unquote, look good is because we've been trying to tell you the whole year that this offensive line is not as bad as the numbers look and not as bad as Sam Howell has made them look. It's not a mirage, people. Like, when Sam vacates an empty pocket, which I understand why he's doing because he's gotten just destroyed for a record pace of sacks through most of the season, you run out of clean pockets, good pockets that normal, like, veteran throw with anticipation NFL quarterbacks can throw out of, and you run into sacks, you run into pressure. And also, when you get the ball out on time, something that Jacoby can also do because he's a little bit taller and he can see over the not perfectly stout pockets that have been set in front of these quarterbacks this year, unlike Sam, who's a little bit shorter and has trouble with that on occasion. Yeah, the offensive line's going to look better, but they're playing the same. With that said, if you think that your football knowledge sitting on the couch is the same as the next general manager of the Washington Commanders, I'm very sorry to report that you actually could not do that job. That's not a disrespect to you. It's just a reality that, like, when you dedicate your life to something, like the professionals that do this for a living do, they're good at it. Just like they wouldn't probably be very good at your job, whatever that job is. So they're not going to be fooled by 2 good games of Jacoby Brissett if Jacoby Brissett has 2 good games. The new person is not going to come in and be like, oh my God, it was there all along. Like, no. What are we doing? If you want to get fooled by that, or you're concerned that fans will, so what? They can call into our show. They can write on our YouTube comments, all the nonsense that they want. Felix the Fearless, be more fearless. Stop worrying about silly stuff.
Hey, Craig.
Yes.
So you asked if someone can give you a legitimate reason to start Sam Howell the last 2 games when everyone can see he's struggling. Ben Standing reached out to me. He texted me, giving me a reason. And I'll ask you, is this a legit or
Ben
legitimate-
Standig,
yes,
private line to the comments.
Yes.
I like it.
to see if he can work his way out of this funk. That was the legitimate reason.
So here would be my response to that. Direct, indirect, I don't know what this is. My response, Ben, thanks for listening. Shout out to you, sir. You want to come on the show tomorrow? I don't know. We can talk about that. Private line, text back. My response to that is, this is not inevitable. Sam is not going to be whatever he's going to be no matter what. What happens next for Sam Howell is critical to his success. And to see if he can work out of this, quote unquote, is actually not the goal. The goal for him is how good can he be as a quarterback. And if sitting him for a week, letting him take a deep breath, letting him reset, taking him out of this funk, and by the way, you're not exposing him to a defense that could absolutely make it worse and be the final nail in the coffin, like, that is worth it to me. To see if in the long term he can work out, but there's no rush to see if he can work out of this next week. Him having a good game next week only does so much. Him fixing his career long term and getting saved from going down a spiral, I think is much more likely to happen this way. Like, are the final nails in the coffin? Sure. Is he possibly there going, I'm not dead yet? I hope so, because I think there's so much good within Sam Howell. I love his work ethic. I love his demeanor. I love his arm talent. I love the stuff he does off schedule. Like, I like so much of the stuff that's there that is intangible and uncoachable. But the stuff that needs to be coached up hasn't gotten better. And continuing down the same path right now, to me, is a fool's errand. To me, this is an absolute no-brainer. So I understand why that's a legitimate question, and I don't think if that's Ben's opinion or whether he's just asking it. I think that's about as good as you're going to get. My counter would simply to be you're asking the wrong question. Him working out of this right now doesn't really matter. Him having the ability to work out of this long term does. What does Ben have to say to that?
So he's listening on a delay, so he might not hear this for like another
In case I say a dirty word, we have a delay.
Yeah.
No. Okay. So we'll get that. And maybe Ben, if he wants to come on the show tomorrow, we can talk about it. So we'll figure that out. Last but not least, here in Never Read the Comments, which you can leave your comment if you're not Ben Standig on any of our on-demand videos at Craig Hoffman and at the Team 980. This one from Shetty Fish, 1972. I don't make up the screen names. I just try to read them. Craig, can you ask Logan P? I'm going to just answer this myself, but I understand why he's asking Logan, the former player. What's the dynamic in the locker room when you have a veteran tight end literally screwing his young quarterback by giving the other team the ball? Of course, talking about the Logan Thomas first interception. Is that a potential issue for Sam? Would a Matt Ryan get greater accountability from his receivers? These guys seem to be dropping a ton of easy-to-catch balls from Sam, which they suddenly catch from Jacoby. I think when people think of accountability, this is a great question, by the way, which is why I want to try give my best to answer it. And then I will ask Logan this on the pod tomorrow if I can remember. Anthony, can you remind me in like 90 seconds when the second is over, or when the segment is over, to set a reminder for myself for tomorrow? Point is, I don't think it's a matter of accountability, right? We think of accountability as like, hey man, you got to catch that. Like, Matt Ryan or Jacoby Brissett or whoever getting in a receiver's face isn't going to make them do their job better. Or a coach being like, you're going to run sprints after practice if you can't catch the football. I think the reality is the timing of the offense is better with these veterans. So Sam is very helter-skelter. The confidence level is very low. The offense is very out of sync. And so when you come out of your break and you're expecting the ball and it's a little bit late, you wind up like hitching a little bit and it looks like there's a glitch in the system, you know, on the rollout for Logan Thomas. Like, should he catch that? Absolutely. But is that one that Sam like throws a little bit late and super hard right at his face? Is that a difficult catch? Yes, it is a absolutely very difficult catch. One that no excuses Logan Thomas has to make, but maybe Jacoby throws a better ball there. It's a little more catchable. It's a little softer. It leads Logan out ahead. Maybe it's a little bit earlier for whatever reason. Like, the timing and the rhythm and the confidence, I think, leads to the drops versus catches more than quote-unquote accountability. So that's my thought. We'll ask Logan tomorrow and see what he says, as long as I remember to, ask him. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We are streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980 as well, where you can leave your comments for this very segment. Never read the comments. Of course, you can also leave them. We get most of our comments at Craig Hoffman. When we get back here on the Team 980, a look at Ron Rivera's tenure holistically. It's not going to be pretty. And Dave Johnson joins us coming up at 6:15. It is a Wizards game day yet again here on your home for Wizards basketball and, of course, the Hoffman Show, 4 to 7 each and every day, right here on the Team 980. It's the Hoffman Show. Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Tomorrow on the show, be here till 6:30. Maryland hoops tomorrow night. Got Wizards basketball tonight, so we're here till 6:45. With that being the case, we will talk to Dave Johnson coming up in about 10 minutes. Right now, though, Anthony, I'd like to ask, I'd kind of like to ask a rhetorical question. I don't know. There's two different avenues I kind of want to explore with this, both involving the Commanders head coach. One is, what's Ron Rivera's legacy in D.C., which is something that we'll probably talk about more when the end comes on Black Monday in a couple of weeks. So we'll in a way pocket that then. But the reason I throw that idea out there is there was a lot of people over the last 24, 48 hours that said that Ron would make, or I guess at this point, 72 hours. Because, Anthony, did you know it's Wednesday?
Yes, I think I kind of noticed that.
I just keep forgetting. It's Tuesday. I was Wednesday for a whole segment for Never Read the Comments, and I'm right back mentally to Tuesday. Which is going to be sweet when tomorrow's Thursday. And maybe it'll actually even feel like it. That'd be cool.
Possibly.
But point is, there's folks who are like, Rivera won't go to Howell because then what does he have left? He cares about his legacy here. What legacy does Ron Rivera have to protect here? And I don't say this to be like mean to Ron. Ron didn't do a bad job on purpose. He just did a bad job. So we're going to be adults about that and just be like, hey, my job is to talk about what happened. I'm a commentator. I'm an opinion person. I'm an opinion journalist to the extent that I'm a journalist. I'm a talk show host. So I'm going to give my opinion. And my opinion is it is very silly for anyone to talk about the words legacy and Ron Rivera in the same sentence. Because literally, Anthony, what has he done here?
Nothing really.
I don't even think you had one too many words. He's
Nothing.
done nothing. He's done absolutely nothing. Culture change. I will say this. I think the Washington Commanders organization, the franchise, is a better place to work as a human being now than it was when he got here. He has something to do with that. And that was true even before the sale. I think Jason Wright has much more to do with that. But I do think that, like, from a, hey, these are maybe not high-level professionals at their jobs, but these are actual professionals who take the job seriously. There's a lot more of those people in the building. And certainly as the head coach, Jay Gruden was known to be out and about in Loudoun County, for instance. And I think Ron Rivera understands, like, I'm the head coach of an NFL football team, and there's a certain way that I should conduct myself. And he takes that professionalism seriously. Now, I will say there are a lot of Jay Gruden type of coaches in the NFL. I would say it is not an abnormal to have coaches who you hear rumors about them doing all kinds of stupid things and untoward and unprofessional and unbecoming types of things. Unfortunately, that is a reality of men with money in America and men with money around the world, frankly. That is a thing that happens, especially money and power. But that's a different discussion for a different time. The point is, like, Ron is someone that, like, I trust is genuinely a good human being for whatever that is worth. On that front, you're not gonna catch him out partying and whatever. I think he works really hard. I don't think he's very good at the work. But I also think, that there are people who have done things on his staff, like, professionally, like, for instance, agree or disagree with the point Del Rio was making. I vehemently disagree with the ridiculous January 6th stuff that he was talking about. But, like, that's a fireable offense. You can't do that. And he stuck by him. And he stuck by him when he wasn't that good at the job. And, like, the loyalty about that, and the loyalty to Scott Turner, the loyalty to many people who are bad at their jobs, to me, isn't very professional. Like, professionalism involves sometimes making tough decisions. It sometimes is looking at someone that you may like personally and being like, hey, not good. Consequences. Chop, chop. We're out of here. And I don't think that Rivera does that stuff. So I think you've got that element to deal with. And then there is the thing that most people care about anyway, which is the football. And I tried to say this earlier in the season, and people laughed in my face. And I'm just saying this now to make that small point. I'm not going to make it about me. But how many people now are saying the exact thing that I said earlier this season, Anthony, which is, I think this football team is worse than when he inherited it. People laughed at me. They're like, there's no way the 2019 team was so bad. Ron Rivera like Jay Gruden left the cupboard bare. How many days in a row have you seen the meme come across your Instagram or Twitter feed about the 2020 O-line or the 2019 offensive line?
Seen that often.
It's like every freaking day. It's like, we took it for granted. Chase Roulier. And like some of it is stupid if we're being totally honest, because like Chase Roulier got hurt. They didn't want Chase Roulier to leave. Now and also like Brandon Sheriff was a cap casualty situation that was not worth it to re-sign probably. So I don't even mind that move. The Trent Williams thing was ridiculous, especially to trade him for a 3rd-round pick. I'm trying to remember who they had. Oh, then they had Eric Flowers. And I will note to people that while they did not pay Eric Flowers, nobody else has paid Eric Flowers either. So, like, I do think the offensive line, relative to, like, oh, they could have the same one today if Ron had just had some foresight, is the way that gets framed is stupid. But there's no doubt that, like, he didn't replace any of those guys, and that is a legitimate point. Obviously, Chase didn't work out. They've traded Montez. The linebacker level, they had a young Cole Holcomb. Now they have Barton, who's turning into a decent player. But, like, they got Jamin Davis, and, Jamin's better now than when they took him in 2020. But, like, yeah, that's their first-round pick, and hasn't exactly been what you'd want out of a first-round pick. Their secondary, I think, is pretty much the same. And then offensive skill-wise, like, they inherited Terry. And I think they're a little bit better at the other skill positions, but schematically, they've been a nightmare for all 4 years. Turner, and then this year, Bieniemy matching what he wants to do to Sam Howell. So it's just now that Sam hasn't worked out the way people thought he was working out earlier this season, people have come around to what I've been saying all along, which is, like, all he did was strip it down. So when people talk about legacy and protecting the legacy, Ron's legacy is he's going to leave a bare cupboard and plenty of resources to fill it, and nobody signs up. Like, if you want to do that, you don't need 4 years to do it. That's all. That's the point. That is the thing I wanted to say. We'll obviously be diving into that in much more detail over the next couple of weeks, and we'll ultimately put a bow on the Ron Rivera era, probably on Monday, January 9th. When we get back, Dave Johnson joins us from Capital One Arena on the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and always live on the free Odyssey app. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. It is a Wizards game day for the second straight night. Wizards off tomorrow. Then we'll have another game for you on Friday. It is a stacked week. Get them in. Home games. Yes, indeed. Home games at Capital One Arena. But every Wizards game day, you know what we do. We talk to the voice of the team, calling the games here on your radio. It's time to talk to Dave Johnson.
Time to get the radio party started.
Blocked by Bilal Coulibaly. Oh, boy, did he stuff him. Left wing pull, it's there. Oh, that's a pool party. Near the basket, slam right in. Under the steal and the slam. You better go off. Intercepted by Kispert. Kispert now, foul line. Oh, slam. Ooh, that'll jar your preserves.
It's time for Dave Johnson on a Wizards game day.
Kuzma for three. Oh, it's there. It's there. Big shot.
On the Hoffman Show.
You better go on.
Dave joins us from the broadcast booth at Capital One Arena for the second straight day, 24 hours later. Dave, how are you?
You know, and I was just listening to the Hoffman Show earlier where you were talking about how money and power can be a bad combination with males around the world. And that's always why I've strived for mediocrity. It's kept me out of trouble. It's kept me out of trouble. And that's good advice to all your listeners of the Hoffman Show that you think you want money, you think you want power, doesn't bring you happiness. I'll be working until I'm 90. I'm in debt up to my ears, but I am so happy. I am so happy.
And out of trouble.
And out of trouble.
Dave,
and out of trouble.
I think you might have missed the point of the parable.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's what happens when you come in at the end of a conversation, which is the story of my life sometimes.
Well, we appreciate you listening, even if, you may have missed the small part of the conversation right. And the entire point. No, that's funny. All right, so Dave's with us to talk about, of course, the Wizards, who face the Raptors tonight, a team that has lost 3 straight games, but has not played until December, or hasn't played since December 23rd. Of course, the Wizards played last night, a game where they played the Magic neck and neck for 3 quarters, had a kind of a hiccup at the start of the fourth, Dave, and then battled back, made things close at the end. What happened, though, in your mind in the beginning of the fourth quarter that let the game get away, and then how did they flip it before they ran out of time at the end?
Well, the big problem again, defense in terms of defending the paint, it became a problem, and that's no slight against Daniel Gafford. That's a team thing, and Daniel Gafford had another wonderful night last night, 13 points, 13 rebounds, and 3 block shots. But what changed in general in the second half, at halftime, both Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner, they each had 8 points. In the second half, Orlando just said, we're going to go to the paint, which is their strong point anyway. And the Wizards got too far behind. But really, the number you look at is, I'm splitting hairs when I talk about this was a close game last night. The Wizards could have won this game. Too many live ball turnovers that led to easy buckets. The Wizards gave up 31 points off turnovers. So, that's game over. The Magic, they did force the Magic into some turnovers. They out-rebounded the Magic last night. So they did some good things, but, that's part of our story. We'll end up with an incomplete grade in some games, and when you look at that turnover category, that clearly was the problem. I mean, again, think about it. 31 points they allowed on turnovers last night.
Not good. They also, one thing that I noticed when I was watching this game is the amount of points they gave up, not just in the paint generally, but specifically on drive and kind of cut. It wasn't necessarily like drive and kick, which is the big thing now in the NBA, where it's drive, kick out for threes. The Magic did a really good job of cutting. I'd imagine this is something that Glenn was losing his mind over on the broadcast. It's the kind of thing that particularly gets under his skin. How do you, as you're talking with him through it last night, like what's the fix there, and what did Wes Unseld Jr. say about that after the game?
I think the fix there is that again, you go over all these things on the scouting report, but then you try to execute them in real time, and then you have to give credit to the other team. So it's a case where Banchero and Wagner, as I mentioned specifically, were showing last night who they are and what they've developed into. And, and by the way, Anthony Black, another rookie of theirs, or another young player who's a rookie, I think they hit on him as well. So as we talked a lot about in the broadcast last night, the Magic blueprint, if you will, for what the Wizards hope to become. And that is make the right moves, hit on some draft picks, and that's what the Magic have done. And it wasn't easy, and it was painful for the Magic, but we saw it last night. That's a game last night that the Wizards were doing all the things capable of winning, but really good teams in the end will prevail. And the Magic, I think, just reminded us last night that we have to consider them a really good team.
No doubt.
Now, when you're talking about the fix, I mean, we talked about it before the game. You're gonna have to. You had to show. You got to be buzzing around certain bodies like Banchero and like Wagner specifically. It's not that they didn't do it. It's just that obviously didn't do it enough, and the Magic won the game.
It was funny in the post-game presser. I think it was Christy Winter-Scott asked Wes specifically about that too, with like, hey, some problems helping the helper, and you could just see Wes, because Christy's so smart and so on top of it, which is why she has her gig, and obviously she was a coach for a long time, player, etc. And you could see Wes just being like, Christy, why are you doing this to me?
Right.
Please don't ask me this right now.
Well, and again, as I said, not to evade the answer, but it's not that they don't know, but and this is
it's
what
the
people
speed.
It's the speed of the game, and again. There's no prediction. This happens every night. The Wizards will, and most teams do this, they literally will script their first play. And so I already know who I think the Wizards hope will score the first 2 points. But after that, it's freelance. They have systems and what they do. But then it's also, you've got to read what the defense is doing. So what makes it difficult is just the speed of the NBA game in which you have to make these decisions. And, if it's on a string, defense. It does start with mano-a-mano and man-to-man. This is still a man-to-man game. And that's as much as we talk about schemes and actions and all that kind of stuff. It still comes down to, and that's why, by the way, having a DeLon Wright back last night, who will not play tonight because it's second of back-to-back. He missed 20 games with a knee injury. But having him back will help this team because he, along with Landry Shamet, you could argue the best perimeter defenders, and that's where defense starts. So it's little nuances like that where, again, DeLon Wright, is not one of the faces, if you will, of the franchise. But believe me, you notice him when he's gone.
For sure. You can't drive and dish if there's no drive in the first place. So having DeLon back will help. As you mentioned, he is out tonight, though, not wanting to do too much too soon with that knee. Johnny Davis also available, although he was a DNP last night. What is the latest, real quick, Dave, before we let you go, on Kyle Kuzma? I know he was questionable.
As far as I know, he's going to go. But that's as far as I know. And so, again, he suffered against Golden State, that knee injury, and he didn't finish the game against Golden State. And, he didn't look quite like himself last night. But, again, right now still listed as questionable.
All right.
We'll see. I mean, questionable means you can play, but also
you might not.
I'm so sorry. Scratch that. Can somebody erase that? You don't need somebody to define questionable for you or your listeners on the radio. I apologize. I think I just had a stroke live on the air. I didn't realize what I was doing. But because I full confidence that you understand what questionable is.
Dave, we have a wide audience.
There we go.
We don't know who has already taken your advice on mediocrity. Perhaps we need explanations for so many things on this planet.
This is my phrase to everyone out there: strive for mediocrity and always mediocrity. I can't even say it, and always questionability.
Again, Anthony, put it on the board.
Yep,
two days in a row.
Yep. Right.
The always quotable, the always quotatious Dave Johnson with us here on the Hoffman Show. Radio party gets started in just over 15 minutes there at Capital One Arena. Dave, thank you, sir. We'll talk to you again on Friday.
I was glad to have my career end live on your show, so I appreciate that, and maybe we'll talk to you on Friday.
Okay, maybe. I honestly am kind of looking forward to the Glenn Solo adventure. That could be fun. What could possibly go wrong? Never mind. Dave, have a great call.
All right, thanks.
See you. Bye. That is Dave Johnson with us here on the Hoffman Show, perhaps for the final time. He's like, why am I doing this? That man is a legend, Anthony. What have we done to him? Oh, Anthony. Oh,
I look crazy.
You do, but it's more of just, you could have just sold it to the radio audience that you were paying attention and ready to speak.
Oh no, I was paying attention. It was more so
the headphone situation.
The headphone, the do-rag, the hat.
You had a lot going on over there.
Yeah. What was my thought?
I don't know. Here's what we're gonna do. The point is, Dave Johnson's a legend, and we may have ruined him. That's the point. Yet that is not the finable offense that we need to consider. Does Anthony need to be fined? We will discuss that next, and then time for real things before we hand it off to Dave and Glenn here on the Hoffman Show. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Tomorrow on the show, we got to go around the NFL. We got to talk about this Russell Wilson thing. Crazy. Speaking of total organizational failures. Honestly, like what the situation is in Denver is a little bit of an alternate universe of what's happening here in Washington. And trust me, you'd rather be Washington than you would Denver. We'll explain that tomorrow on the show. Anthony, let's put in around the NFL in the rundown for sure. Might need to go around the NBA too, because have you seen what's happening to the Pistons?
Motown misery.
Yeah, they're 2-27. They have lost 20. That's the crazy thing, right? They're 2-27. They've lost 27 straight. So that means they started 2-0 on the season.
That's insane, man.
I think I have that correct.
I thought they were 2-1. I think they won the first game,
So they're
lost the
2-28
second game.
now?
Yeah.
Either way, they're one game shy of the longest losing streak in NBA history. So pretty terrible. But they're so bad that poor Tim Bontemps has to go watch them play basketball. I look up on ESPN right now. Old Timmy B is live in Orlando, Florida, with the Magic coming off their win last night here in D.C., back playing the Pistons tonight, looking for 2 in a row as the Pistons look to avoid 28 in a row. So I said before the break, there is a finable offense that needs to be considered. Shout out to Brian Powell, who first tweeted us and said, hey, did the fine system disappear? And then realized I don't check Twitter that much and got in the YouTube chat and was like, hey, when Anthony didn't have the open ready for Never Read the Comments, is that a finable offense? And Anthony,
man, you said his name was Brian Powell?
Yeah.
Okay. Got my eyes on you, Brian Powell.
I mean, it's all public. It's not like I let out a secret. It's a public YouTube chat, and it's a public Twitter account.
To be honest, I thought about it. I'm not gonna lie. I thought you were gonna mention it.
Well, I wasn't gonna make you. You don't get like extra fining for not. Yeah. Like you get to plead the fifth. It's not like you had to be like, hey, that's a fine on me. But as the arbiter of the fines, I do believe that is a standard 10-yard penalty.
Yeah.
Automatic.
I think
First down. So I do believe that is a finable offense. Brian, thank you for being our extra set of eyes here. I was slacking. So that, Anthony, man, the next lunch, which we still owe ourselves one. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow. We should discuss that, a potential lunch plan for tomorrow. Mm-hmm. But that one's 60-40 on me. The next one right now is trending very badly for you.
I know.
We are halfway on the fine board to where we need to go, or to the 100 points. And Anthony is, I'm going to give myself the full screen here for a second just so people on YouTube can see the fine board.
45.
Yeah, that is.
That 45 for me?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times 5 is 45. I've got 15 fine points.
So that's 60% of the way.
60%.
Good gracious, Anthony.
And you are not doing well, sir.
Yeah. I don't have any word for it, to be honest. That's been the first time somebody's been fined in a very long time.
That is true. We have been doing well, which honestly is a good thing for the show. We would like, Brian, for the fine system to go away because we don't commit any penalties.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we're human, and such is life. Anthony revived it, and that is that. The business is done. The case is closed. If you missed any part of the show, make sure you check it out on the podcast or on demand on YouTube. Videos will go up over tonight and tomorrow morning at Craig Hoffman at the team 980. And tomorrow on the show, we will also do our NFL tiers. Anything else we got lined up specifically, Anthony, that we want to tease ahead for tomorrow? Let the folks know?
Linnell, question mark.
Oh, yeah, I do think Linnell, Overreaction Tuesday is going to become Overreaction Thursday. So I do think that is on slate. He and I talked about that earlier in the week.
He didn't chat with Rooster today. Do you think he'll have some fiery?
Well, he was even with Doc, so
yeah.
I mean, it's not like they're chill.
You're right.
So there's that. All right, with that housekeeping done and dusted, it is time for Real Things Real People Said into real microphones.
Real things.
We're not going to be so this year.
Real people.
5 and 11. Not very good.
Said into real microphones.
You know, the culture is actually damn good.
All right, Anthony, this is not a fine on me because audition froze. So do you have the real things up. If not, it is unfreezing as we speak. So I might be able to actually pull up some sound here. But do you have the real things clips in front of you?
I have 2 of them.
Okay. Well, let's start off with the one. Do you have the one from yesterday with Winnie and Coos?
Yeah, let me get that one.
Okay, so I will set it up while you do. This is, again, not finable to anybody. This is a technology failure beyond our control. Kyle Kuzma is dating model Winnie Harlow. GQ does something called a couples quiz. Yes, a couples quiz. They put it on YouTube. It's very good. Some of them are very, very funny. And Kyle and Winnie took the GQ couples quiz.
How do you know when I'm mad at you?
You start talking Jamaican.
Patois?
I hear blood clot. It's over.
That's a fact. I want it bump.
What's my favorite tattoo?
On you?
Yeah.
Damn.
It might be hard.
He's got a lot.
I'll give you that point.
Yeah.
We got matching tattoos a long time ago, but she wanted to do it in this spot, and it faded.
Yeah.
So now we have to redo it in a different spot.
That you're gonna pick this time. It's King and Queen of Hearts.
Yeah.
But his had a double meaning.
Did they explain what the double meaning is?
They did not. I think the interview was cut short.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Now I'm intrigued. All right, what else we got in Real Things today, Anthony?
Also, we have Tyrese Halliburton. Yesterday, before the Pacers game, there was a WWE wrestler present in the tunnel.
Oh.
Yeah, and he was super excited to meet him and his queen.
Booker T, no way. What's up, baby? No way. And the queen, oh my gosh, how you guys doing? I'm a big WWE fan, that's crazy. Oh, Booker T, y'all here? Oh. Word. We gotta get a picture of the game. Please, we gotta get a picture of the game. That's fine.
I thoroughly enjoy Tyrese Halliburton, and I'm also thoroughly unsurprised that he is a WWE fan.
Are you not?
He just seemed, no, I'm not.
Really?
I was when I was a kid.
Okay.
Like, I'm not trying to be too cool for it, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, as an adult, I'm like, all right, I get it. But I also get it. Like, it's not for me, but if you just want, like, some funny kind of scripted drama, like, if you're taking it super seriously, as opposed to being like, this is entertainment, then, like, but, like, as entertainment, it's brilliant entertainment. I mean, it's the reason, like, let's be real, it's the reason Pat McAfee is as big as he is. It's not specific that he's involved in WWE, but, like, he understands the entertainment. Yeah. And you can say a million things about WWE, but they get entertainment. And so Tyrese Halliburton seems like a bit of a dork in a way that I thoroughly enjoy, and that would make us great friends because I also am a bit of a dork. And I think that I'm not surprised at all that he's a huge WWE fan. But, like, genuinely in a way that he just showed that kind of enthusiasm. I think that's great.
WWE is fantastic. If I saw Booker T, I probably would have the same excitement. I'm not gonna lie. The legends, I love the legends. The new guys, some of them are cool. I follow the storylines.
How often do you watch WWE?
So my best friend DJ, he's the biggest WWE fan I know. Like, to this day, he watches every main event. He's been to WrestleMania. He wants to take me to WrestleMania. I think next year in April, I think I'll be.
I feel like Russell goes, doesn't he? Isn't it like a thing? Well, you should see if you can go with Russell.
Yeah,
what a story. You'll come back with some stories, that's for sure.
Oh, for sure. But, yeah, I love me some WWE as well.
All right, what else? What's the final one we got today?
Last one is Kristaps Porzingis. He was speaking highly of his teammate Derek White.
Okay.
And you know, he gave him his flowers.
Okay.
I didn't realize how good D. White was. You know, he's kind of like under the radar a little bit. But man, he's special. Like the way he plays, like how, I don't know, 90+% of the time he makes the right play all the time, you know, and that's the perfect teammate you want, you know. And on top of that, he's shooting great percentages and being super efficient. I mean, yeah, he's special, man, and I'm happy that I have both of those guys on my team, Drew and D. White. I didn't realize how good D. White was.
I think that was from JJ Redick's podcast.
Yeah.
The Old Man in 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I listened to that interview. It was good. KP also was very complimentary of Simon Washington. He's like, yep. It was funny because JJ kept kind of killing the Wizards, and I was like, come on, JJ.
Yeah, that's not nice.
That's not nice. Don't kick us while we're down. But he, KP was like, no, like Washington was great. Like, I mean, even to like Tommy Shepard, he was like, I'm appreciated for Tommy Shepard bringing me in. Like, I had a great time there. It's a great city. Like, I loved the city. Like, I think in different circumstances, KP would have loved to stay here. Unfortunately, the circumstances were that the Wizards were ready to embark on a rebuild and aren't very good at basketball. And he's getting to a point where he really would like to be on a team that's good at basketball. And boy, is he in Boston. All right, that's our show for today. We'll see you tomorrow on the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. Wizards basketball now.